I'm Kat Hamilton, and we're going to do some sword yoga today. We're going to be building on what we did the last time, which was grounded footwork. If you weren't in that class, that's fine. You don't need to have taken it. It's not like a prerequisite. So we're just kind of building on concepts in yoga to help with our sword practice. We're going to do our normal warm-ups and our practice cuts. Part of that is because I want us to take a sword mindset into yoga. I don't want to turn off the fencing part of our brains and then go into transitioning into yoga. I want to be able to take the fencing mindset with us into yoga so that we can then later take some of those yoga concepts and bring them back into our fencing. So we're going to, I can hear my cats crashing around the other room. We're going to get started with our normal warm-ups. If you haven't seen these before, no problem. Just follow along. This is what our club tends to do for warming up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make big arm circles, and I'm going to count us off and count of 8. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to do arm swings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Big arm circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to do a side bend starting to our left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to the right. 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Forward bend. 1, 2, 3, 4, back, 5, 6, 7, 8. Forward, 1, 2, 3, 4, back, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to start bent over, and we're going to do big circles with the body. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go the other way. 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to do some arm swings. Just follow along. We're going to start with our arms to our right. 1, 2, up, 4, 5, up, 7, 8. Up, 2, 3, up, 5, 6, up, 8. Do some jumping jacks. We're going to hop first, and then jumping jack. Hop for 4, jumping jack for 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Get your heels hip width apart. We're going to do a sumo squat. Let me move so you can see my feet. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to stand and come to a tabletop position. 5, 6, 7, 8. Back to sumo. 2, 2, 3, 4. Tabletop. 5, 6, 7, 8. Turn the left toes out, and we're going to bend and touch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right toes out, bend and touch. 5, 6, 7, 8. Back to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to the right. 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to do some lunges. We're going to do a deep lunge to our right. Make sure that your knee doesn't track out past your toe, and you get a nice stretch through here. We're going to try and keep it low. If you can, put your hands behind the head. Go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and switch. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm going to go, and I'm going to put the left toes up to get a different stretch. 2, 2, 3, 4, and switch. 5, 6, 7, 8. Step up, feet together. Gonna rotate the knees clockwise first. 1, 2, 3, 4, and switch back the other way. 5, 6, 7, 8, and switch. 2, 2, 3, 4, and switch. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to stretch out the back of our leg while also stretching out our wrist. So get into a lunge. This is nice and straight. You can feel the stretch at the back of the leg. We're going to be stretching our wrist. Start at the top. You're going to be twisting gently and bringing down as we count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stretching the wrist the other way. 5, 6, 7, 8. Turning. Now we're getting this leg and this wrist. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Shake it out. Grab your sword-like object. I'm going to use this obnoxiously straight boken today. And we're going to salute in first. So begin with your sword-like object on your left shoulder. Feet together. Aktung. Begrüße. And now we're ready. First thing we're going to do is Scheitelhau to the skull. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to cut to the long point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're going to cut to Alber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Cutting right Oberhau, you can either do it from the High-Vom-Tag or from the shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch your feet. Left Oberhau, either from the High-Vom-Tag or from the shoulder. Up to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Staying with the left foot forward, we are going to do a left Oberhau, transition, right Unterhau. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Switch your feet. I'm actually going to move something I have on the floor so I don't hit it. Okay, So we're going to do a right Oberhau, transition, left Unterhau. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next, we're going to cut the Mittelhau. So I'm going to just check myself real quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut from left to right, transition, cut right to left. And do that carefully. if you're me, you have only a little clearance. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to switch. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to cut from the right to the left. Transition, cut from the left to the right. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Now we're going to begin in right ox. We're going to cut right Oberhau with a step if you have space. If not, you can start with the right foot forward and just cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Beginning in the right Nebenhut, we're going to also cut Oberhau with a step. If you don't have room for a step, just start with your right foot forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to do the other side. We're going to begin in the left ox. We'll be taking a step, cut Oberhau. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Beginning in the left Nebenhut, we're going to step and cut Oberhau. Again, if you don't have room for a step, you can just leave that foot forward and just cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The last thing we're going to do before we move on to some yoga, I'm not going to give you an active method for doing this, but we are going to, because this is what we're going to be working on, is posture. We are going to be in the long point, and we're going to thrust and take a little gathering step and pull out again. I want you to really focus on standing up straight with a straight spine, a stacked spine, whatever that means to you right now, just so that we can get some calibration for how we're doing in keeping good posture, whatever that means to you right now. And then we're going to kind of work on what that means to me and in my interpretation of yogic practices on a stacked spine. So we're going to do start with the right foot forward, and we're going to do 5 with the right foot forward, and then we'll switch and do 5 with the left foot forward. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch your feet so the left foot is forward. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excellent. Everyone can put down your sword-shaped object and grab a drink of water. And then I'm going to get my space set up for some yoga. So for this, you don't necessarily need a yoga mat or a yoga block or any like yoga straps or any kind of yoga equipment. So today I'm going to do everything we're going to do, I'm going to do with a towel and a small round pillow, just for some extra support in getting the hips up for certain places. So I'm going to be walking you through, if you're using a blanket or a towel, I'm going to be walking you through on kind of what we're going to be doing with that. The towel I'm using today is this towel. You can see towel hoffer, get it? You get it? You got it? You can buy this and other fine merch from the Squinting Rabbit Threadless store. Let me just set up my little area here. So if you're spreading out a blanket or a towel, you just spread it out where you're going to work. I'm going to move my drunk yoga book off to the side. Okay. So I have my small round pillow. I have my towel that I'm going to be working on today. So we are going to start today's practice on the ground. We're going to be using the ground to try and help us to stack the spine without needing to worry about, am I standing up straight? Am I not standing up straight? I was able to, last summer, have an opportunity to study with one of my teachers. And when I was in class, something that my teacher noticed in myself and all my classmates was that when we were instructed to stand up straight, I'm going to demonstrate for you, this is kind of what we were doing. And I don't know if you can see the like rounding of the spine, and I'm kind of leaning backward. Granted, this is very exaggerated to kind of show you how silly and untenable this is, but standing up straight, sometimes when we're told stand up straight, the first reaction is to puff out your chest, which can lead to this kind of back bending. Like, I'm going to stand up straight, and I've thrown back the shoulders, when really we're going to be thinking down with the shoulders. And so a way that we're going to help us to bring that into standing is we're going to start on the floor and then work into a seated position. We're going to play around with what it means to have our spine in neutral and stacked before we bring it back up to standing, and we'll do some warrior poses, which are pretty reminiscent of like a lunge or even holding a long point. So let's go ahead and get down on the floor. I'm going to start with one of my favorite positions in yoga, which is just laying down on the floor. So just go ahead, get relaxed. So we're just going to kind of let everything go for a second. And we're going to just breathe and get ourselves transitioning into a yoga mindset. Again, just holding on to the fencing mindset, remembering what we were doing for our practice cuts, and bringing it into yoga. So you can have your feet just kind of laid out as comfortable. You can either have your hands at your sides, or if you want, you can put them on your hips or on your belly, or you can even cross them put them behind your head like you're kind of relaxing on the beach. You can stick your thumbs down and give your neck a massage. And we're just going to take a couple of deep breaths here to relax and get ourselves in the place we need to be, which is a mindful place. Take a deep breath in, hold it, and a long breath out through the mouth. In through the nose. This is the place we're going to be setting our intention for the practice. Our intention for our practice today is to really build an awareness around our spine and our back, as well as rooting down with the feet, making sure our feet are active and are active participants. Over time, as we're going through the series and building awareness in our body, eventually you'll be able to just kind of tick off that checklist of are my feet connecting with the ground? Is my spine in alignment? We're going to be working on our shoulders, and we're going to be working on our wrists and hands. I have a whole bunch of stuff planned. But for now, our intention is going to be set on keeping a stacked but relaxed, not stiff spine. So if you're like me, your hands are behind your head, we're going to bring our hands down at our sides, and we're going to bring our feet up and keep our feet up, like kind of close to your butt. We're going to have our legs are not kind of like splaying out. We're going to try and keep our feet in line with our hips. So you might have to kind of fight to do that a little bit. You might kind of be a little more naturally coming inward, or you might be more naturally going outward, but just try to fight to keep them as straight as possible. So I have my heels and my knees are in line with my hips. And now that I can feel my hips, knees, feet, I'm going to take my shoulder blades and kind of just snuggle them down under so that my shoulders are in, not the top part of my shoulders, the back here, like the shoulder blades in the back are touching the ground. My hands are just relaxed naturally at my sides. We're going to play around with kind of the movement of the pelvis to figure out the movement of our spine, because ideally we want our spine to be fully in contact with the ground. Now right now I'm kind of in neutral, so my tailbone's in contact with the ground and my upper back, but there's still, like, I could stick my finger kind of underneath my lower back, or I kind of can feel that gap. So we're going to play around with tilting the pelvis upward, kind of toward us and away from us to create more space. So playing with the extremes in order to dial in like what is just right. Like we're going to Goldilocks this. So kind of pretend that you have maybe like a favorite beverage balanced on your hips right here, or something that could spill if it tilted too far forward or too far backwards. You can kind of feel that like tilting back and forth. So we're going to, as we breathe in, we're going to tilt our pelvis this way. And as we breathe out, tilt it back towards you. We're going to spill the beverage outward. Spill the beverage inward. Just as you're kind of, you can, in your own time, just gently breathing and rocking. When I tilt my pelvis that way, I can put my hand under here. You can give that a try. You can easily slide your hand in under your back. When I tilt the other way, I can really feel my core engage. Just tilting back and forth. Now we've got a feel for that. What I want you to do is, wherever you are, kind of tilt so you're spilling out between your legs and you have that space. We're going to gradually tilt it back towards us until you can feel all of your back touching the floor. So for me, that means that I feel my core engage that tiny little bit. It's not like a fierce burn. It's just I can feel those muscles engaging. I can feel myself kind of fighting to keep my legs in alignment, like we were talking about at the beginning. So don't forget, don't forget keeping your legs in alignment. I can feel my feet kind of gently pressing into the ground and that little bit of core engagement. And all of the vertebrae of my back are touching the ground. And now I'm going to release to a neutral, and I can feel that place where there's one or two vertebrae that are not touching the ground. So we're going to play with that 2 more times. So take the beverage, we're going to spill it between your legs, make that arched back. And now gradually towards you until you feel all the vertebrae touch the ground. We're going to hold it there. Snuggle the shoulder blades down if you feel them coming up again. Get all the back touching the ground. Fight to keep those legs in alignment. And release to neutral. One more time. Spill the beverage all the way between your legs. Arch the back. And then we're going to gradually bring it back towards you until you just feel everything touching the ground. And hold it there. Make sure your shoulder blades, the back, is all touching the ground. You can feel all the vertebrae in your spine touching the ground. And you feel that little bit of core engagement, just a little bit. And release to neutral. Awesome. So now that we've gotten a feel for that, using the ground kind of to help us, since the ground, presumably wherever you are, the ground is mostly flat. So you can mostly keep your spine in alignment because you're using a flat surface. So now we're going to bring that into a seated position, just a simple cross-legged. To get there, going to gently roll onto your side into like a fetal position. And then gradually, with intention, just come on up. Now this is where I'm going to get my pillow. You can, if you choose to, you can just, crisscross applesauce on the ground in a nice, easy position. But because we're going to be focusing on the spine, I find it really helpful to raise up the hips. Since my hip flexors tend to get tired when I'm holding that position for a long time, if you just sit on a pillow or a yoga block, then you can bring the hips up that little bit so that you don't have to keep focusing on fighting gravity in order to keep your spine in alignment. You can worry about your spine and less about what your hip flexors are doing. Because again, that can get kind of tough for some of us sitting for long periods of time. So I have my hips raised up on my little pillow. It's nice and cozy. I'm going to put my hands just kind of relaxed on my knees. And we're going to practice doing that same kind of playing with extremes to dial in to where the stacked would be. And stacked is not that far off from neutral, but it is a little bit more active than neutral. So that's what we're going for. So we're going to do a little action that my yoga teacher calls stirring the pot. So it's going to be kind of that spinal flexion back and rounded forward to play with what we were playing with the hips before. Now we're going to play with the upper spine. So we are going to be breathing in and kind of making a circle with our body coming forward. So I'm leaned over and I'm coming around. And as I come around, I'm going to round the shoulders. And so my spine is flexed the other way. Here, I will turn to the side so that I can show you a little bit of what that looks like. And I'm moving in a clockwise direction. So I'm breathing in, I'm coming around. And breathing out, flexing back the other way. So yeah, give that a try. Just your stretching back and forth and playing with the spine being flexed in either direction. So rounding forward, stretching out. And then we're going to switch directions. And we're going to go back the other way. Here we go. Heart goes forward. Heart comes back. Heart comes forward. Heart comes back. And we're going to switch directions one last time. Heart comes forward and goes back. You can really, really get deep into the stretches here and really feel the spine flex. If you start to feel like it's too much, then just do smaller. You don't have to do as big as me. So here, I'll show you just a little bit smaller, just kind of a gentle circle. You really want to listen to your body and be mindful of what it's saying to you. If this is too much, then you just dial it back. Okay, excellent. Now that we've played around with kind of those extremes, we're going to do less extreme, but still kind of the same thing. So we're still sitting in our nice easy pose, hands around our knees, and we're going to play with heart shining forward, shoulders rounding, heart shining forward, shoulders rounding, but it's a lot smaller and it's not stirring the pot. It's just flexing in this one little space. You can kind of feel like my spine is curved back, my spine is curved forward in just these little subtle ways. And now I want you to start, same as we did on the ground, with the spine curved back. And I want you to curve it forward until you feel that same stacked in alignment like you felt on the ground. For me, that means that I'm pulling my shoulders not back, but I'm thinking down. So if you touch those like back parts, those little chicken wings on the back, you feel it go down. And I do feel that same little bit of core engagement to hold myself upright. I don't feel that as much when I go with my chest really back and my spine is really flexed back. I feel that in my back. When I round forward too much, I really can also feel that in my back. When I have a stacked spine, I feel it in my core. And you might feel it a little bit in your lats. So you want to feel that, like that girdle that's holding you up. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to kind of flex forward and then gently dial it back, dial it back. Excellent. One more time. Forward and gently dial it back. We're going to take a few seconds here to just kind of feel ourselves with the spine in alignment, thinking down with my shoulders and thinking my core is engaged. Now we're going to transition to doing, this is all very much variations on a theme. We're going to be doing this on our hands and knees, and some of you may recognize this as cat and cow. So we're going to be doing cat and cow on our knees. Again, we're dialing in what that neutral spine is and trying to find it in different ways so that when we're standing, we can still find it. So at this point, I'm going to take my pillow, thank it for its service, thank you very much. And I'm going to be going on my hands and knees. If you are using a towel or a blanket at home, or even if you're using a yoga mat, if you have some knee things, you can actually take it and just roll it up a little bit and make a little landing spot for your knees. Because I know I have some tender knees, and you can do this with a yoga mat too. You can give it a little roll a couple of times, and it'll increase the padding. Kind of give yourself a little runway for your knees to go too. So now we're going to come into a tabletop position, hands and knees. I'm spreading out my fingers nice and wide and placing my hands directly under my shoulder. I'm trying to get full contact with the ground with all of my fingers. And my knees are in alignment with my hips, not like splayed out too wide, not too narrow. Just in alignment with my hips. My hands are in alignment with my knees, and my feet, well, my big toe is kind of gently pressing into the ground. And we are going to do cat and cow. Cow is that flexion with almost like when we were sitting and the chest was puffing out. And then cat, we're rounding the other way, like your Halloween cat that's hissing at something, like just like that. So we're going to do that a little bit to play with those extremes and also transitioning to your neutral. So really notice when you are in neutral as opposed to the extremes. It's a lot easier to feel that in this position. So we're going to breathe in, drop the belly, and breathe out. Really round that spine, really stretch it out. In, drop the belly. Rounding back the other way. Something you can do on your way to cat is I start with my tailbone. When I go back the other way, I start feeling each individual vertebrae coming into this position. So try to stack the vertebrae one at a time. You're moving them. It's a visualization, not, literal, but a way for you to visualize what your spine is doing. One more time. Breathe in. And bring it back to neutral. So we're in a neutral tabletop. Our spine isn't too much this way. It's not too much this way. It's very neutral. And I'm working to also engage my core that little tiny bit, trying to feel the same feeling I felt when I was seated, I felt when I was on the ground. So it is that little bit, the abs pulling in and keeping everything stacked. So again, we're going to play with those extremes. We're going to go from the Halloween cat position to playing with the extremes just to get the spine some flexing in the other direction, because we did a lot of the chest shining forward between the ground and sitting. So we're going to play in the other direction to get the spine some good stretching in that direction too. So we're going to breathe in and breathe out, come to a Halloween cat. And slowly, as you breathe in, calm back to neutral. And stop when you feel that stacked, all of your vertebrae in alignment. Breathe in, breathe out. In cat, breathe into neutral. Out to cat. Into neutral. Out to cat. Into neutral. Cool. So now I think we're ready. We've done a lot of floor work. We are going to come up to standing. If you are currently working with a towel or blanket, take a second to just put it off to the side, because I have a hardwood floor, so it's a little difficult to work with a towel on a hardwood floor. And we're going to be in our neutral spine for just a second. I'm going to curl my toes, and I'm going to lift up my hips into a downward dog. And I like having a little bit of a stretch. I like to pedal the feet a little bit because I have really tight hamstrings and calves today. It's been a tough workout week. So let's take a second. We're going to pedal through the feet. So drop one heel, bend one knee, and switch, and switch. And now what we're going to do is just kind of gradually walk our feet towards our hands. It's A-okay to just bend your knees as much as you want. You can have them bent really generously or straighten them if you can, but do not sweat it if you can't. So we are in a forward fold. We've walked up to our feet are meeting our hands. And we're going to gradually roll up to a standing position. So slowly, slowly, slowly rolling up, stacking the vertebrae. I feel my tailbone stack. And then the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. The shoulders come down, and the head pops up. And now we're standing. Yay, you made it. You did it. We're going to play around with some things from standing to keep that spine stacked. What I'm going to do is take us through some warrior poses, nothing too extreme. We're just doing warrior 1 and warrior 2, very basic. But before we get to there, I want to play around with what would be kind of your normal, quote-unquote, normal fencing stance, which would be not as deep of a lunge, of course, as like a warrior pose, but is going to be, if I have my feet starting hip width apart, I'm going to just step forward so that the toes of my left foot are in alignment with the heel of my right foot. I have a nice bend in the front knee, not like too extreme. We don't want the knee to track out over the toes. So make sure your knee doesn't go past your toes. And your left leg is straight. You can almost feel that stretch. But I have a little bit more weight tagged to my right than I do on my left. So I'm pushing forward a little bit. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to be kind of playing around with that like puffed out chest, rounded spine. So I can play with those extremes. So kind of in your own time, play with those extremes until you can slowly dial it into neutral. So I'm starting really extreme, less extreme, less extreme, even less, even less, even less, even less, even less, even less, until I'm finally stacked. So I can feel that. I can feel, again, the core. It's important. I can feel all of my spine in alignment. And again, I'm not thinking back with the shoulders. I'm thinking down. But let's do that again. We're going to play with those extremes. So keep dialing it down until you get there. Yeah, so you can probably, or I'll turn so you can, actually, if I move a little bit this way, I can use my closet door. Then you can kind of see. So let's do it one more time, and you can do it at your own pace. You can follow along with my pace, but I'm going to kind of show you where I'm finally finding where my spine is stacked. Everybody's going to be a little bit different because all of our bodies are a little bit different, but this is what mine looks like. So I'm thinking stacked spine, shoulders down, and also thinking down with the tailbone too. So if you kind of pretend that your tailbone has gotten really heavy, like someone just hung a weight on the back of your pants, and now you have that weight pulling you down. And at the same time, I'm also being mindful that my feet are in full contact with the floor. Not necessarily the toes, because as you can see, I can raise up my toes and I'm still retaining my balance. All of my feet, all of the big parts of my foot, the ball of the foot, the heel, everything is touching. I'm tagging weight in the tailbone and thinking down with my shoulders. More weight forward on the front leg than the back. Yeah. Let's step it back. We're going to take that, and of course we got to do a little bit of yoga stuff with that too. So we are going to, again, push it more to an extreme. We're going to be doing a Warrior One pose, which pretty much looks like if you had just done a deeper fencing lunge. So I have my feet hip width apart. You don't want them too much in like a straight line when you step, because then you're going to be a little wobbly. You want to make sure that you're kind of naturally at a hip width apart. So some might say shoulder, but I prefer to think hip, because your hips might not be the same as your shoulders in terms of the distance between them. So it's better to think with your hip. So I'm going to turn my left toes out just a little bit for this. I'm going to step forward into a not a super deep lunge, but like, comfortably deep. Again, I'm making sure that my knee does not go out past my toe, because that is a fencing no-no, and also just a no-no in general. So now we're going to be doing our Warrior One. Before we get the arms involved, we are going to fight to keep the hips straight and forward. So what I'm doing here is mine, I'm kind of naturally turned out a little bit to my left. Yours might be different depending on your hips. So I'm kind of turning the hips so that they are squared off with whoever my opponent might be for fencing, or just we're a warrior, we're fencing. So I'm thinking weight in my tailbone, shoulders are down. So I'm getting that little bit of core, because I'm, again, like there's a weight attached to my tailbone, thinking down, shoulders down, hips are square. And now I'm going to, since you're juggling all these plates, let's juggle one more. Arms up in the air. And here I'm pretending like I have a big beach ball. I'm holding it. I'm at the beach. I've got a big ball. And in order to hold that, I'm not pinching upward, because if I do that, then I can't hold the ball very comfortably. I am thinking my shoulders down, like I'm creating space between my shoulders and my ears. And you can even like get the fingers really active here, kind of pretend like, oh, I'm holding a ball. Holding that ball. Cool. We're going to transition from here into a warrior 2. And all that really means is instead of holding the ball, still at the beach, now we're going to switch to I'm surfing. So now you can turn those hips out, and you're going to have your arms in alignment. I'm not too far forward or too far back. I actually cracked my back there a little bit. You're thinking that your arms are as straight as can possibly be, like you're, surfing, or I don't actually surf, so something close to surfing. Maybe you're holding two serving trays. You're serving some people, but palms are down. And I'm also, again, I don't want to, the tendency is to kind of either lean, like puffing out too far back. So I'm thinking really like tagging weight in my tailbone, think down. More than anything, thinking down. There we go. We're going to transition back to Warrior 1, and all that means is I'm going to square off the hips again and swing my arms up. I'm going to gently rain them down, wiggle the fingers, rain them down, rain them down. And I'm going to step this front foot back. Good. We're going to do the other side now because I'm pretty sure your left leg's pretty toasty from that, so we're going to get the right leg toasty. So again, feet are hip width apart, thinking down with everything, and the spine is stacked. I'm going to turn that left toe out, or the right toe out this time, just a little bit. I'm going to step forward into our warrior lunge. My knees in alignment with my ankles. And it's okay, you don't have to get like, whoa, oh God. You can go a little bit more gentle with it. It's Friday, So before I get the arms involved, I'm going to, again, keep the hips square against whoever I'm fencing. I'm going to think down with my tailbone and my shoulders. I've got that right leg nice and straight. I can feel that stretch. I've got a little bit more weight in my left leg, not necessarily bending harder on it. I'm just pushing more of my weight onto it. And a trick to keeping the hips square, if you're having a little trouble with that, is I think that I'm pushing my thighs together. I want my inner thighs to touch. So pushing those together. And now that we're thinking down with everything, weight in the appropriate places, stacked spine, now we're getting the arms into it. We're going to hold our beach ball. We're going to sink down with the shoulders. Get nice active fingers. Take a look up at your beach ball. You're actively holding with active fingers. Take a deep breath. And on the exhale, transition to Warrior 2. So I'm allowing my hips to come out. They're not as square, but I'm still keeping that space between my shoulders and my ears. So making sure I'm not scrunching up. I'm thinking down with my shoulder blades and tagging weight in the tailbone. I'm keeping my spine in alignment. Make sure your feet are in contact with the floor. And if you're feeling any tension in your face, like any clenching of the jaw, just go ahead and relax that out. Right, we're going to inhale our way back up to Warrior 1. Holding our beach ball. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to step the left foot back to meet the right. Ready, and go. Perfect. So we're going to finish off our practice today in just a mountain pose. So what we're going to do is we are going to bring our feet together, bring them together and try not to look. Zip, zip, and zip them up nice. You know, it's so tempting to look, but you want to be able to do this by feel. Zip, zip. And I'm going to inhale my arms in. I'm holding my beach ball and my hands down to my heart. Go ahead and close your eyes. And we're going to actively do all that stuff that we were just doing, which is to keep that spine in alignment. So it really is a little bit more active than just a straight up neutral spine. And I know it's a lot of plates to juggle, but if you practice and give it some time, and just be gentle and kind to yourself. And, take your time with it. I'm going to just kind of relax here. I'm going to stop talking for a few moments and let everybody breathe and digest this practice. You can go ahead and flutter your eyes open. Flutter those eyelashes. So as we go into our fencing practice, these are kind of the part of my mental checklist that I have when I'm practicing, when I'm cutting is something I'm actively trying to do to avoid, the bending over when you're cutting and to avoid straining yourself. It's important to have that mindful yoga mindset, at least for me, in body awareness while I'm doing these things so I can protect myself from injury. And overall, I hope that this has been relaxing time, and I hope that it's given you something to think about that maybe you want to incorporate in your sword practice, or maybe things you think about if you do yoga sometimes or regularly, maybe things to think about. So now I'm going to open it up for questions and allow anybody who has any questions or comments, you can go ahead and type them in the chat box. I'm actually going to come forward here. I'm going to look at that, or if you prefer to unmute and ask your question, go for it. So I'm going to give everybody a few moments to ask a question if you have it. I'm really glad to see so many of you to join this. I'm hoping to do more yoga. I have another session in early April that's going to be about the shoulders. So kind of like working my way up from the floor. We did our feet, we did our spine, and then we're going to work on our shoulders. Something I'm working on is not having my shoulders up next to my ears, especially while I'm cutting. It's been a terrible habit I'm trying to break, and yoga has helped with that. Let me see. Oh, thanks, Leanne. I'm really glad that you could join. Oh, thank you, Stuart. I'm really glad that you were able to join us. If there are no questions, then I'm going to say good night. That's what I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you at the next session I have in early April. Goodbye, everybody.